Welcome to the Spirit of Business, where businesses learn how to thrive. My name is Jamie Pritchard, your host, mortgage agent with Mortgage Guys. And today we're going to be talking with Ron Downey, who is my guest. And the topic is going to be Success is 6 inches. Going to give you a little bit of background. Ron and I go back to our high school and college days, so we've known each other for quite a while. Ron is a serial entrepreneur who has had a varied sales career, mainly dealing with large corporations, but he has always reinvented himself and likes to refer to himself as a serial entrepreneur. He has also had a career in sales training where he has taught other people many of the skills and things that he has learned. And tonight he is going to talk to us about mindset and what he calls success is 6 inches. Hey, Ron, how are you?
Good evening, Jamie. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Thank you very much for coming on. So let's get into this. We're talking about mindset, and a lot of our business owners, that can sometimes be a challenge because, as you know, as an entrepreneur, it's a very lonely game. So what do you mean by success is 6 inches?
Great question, Jamie. What I mean by that, it's really the distance between your two ears. So whether you're having a good day or whether you're having a bad day, what determines your success is it's you. You probably heard the statement, if it is to be, it's up to me. And so as much as I've maybe done some finger pointing in my past, as I matured as a successful entrepreneur, I quickly realized that if I'm going to be successful, I'm going to have to show up on time, show up dressed to play, whether I want to or not. And I can never confess to a bad day. It's success is going to be about me and meeting people, showing products, and asking for the business, and then follow up. But again, a lot of that is going to be really the distance between my two ears, and that's what's going to determine my success.
Okay, so it's one thing to talk about the success is between your two ears, but you've got a varied sales background. How did you get into sales? Was it something that you always wanted to do, or you landed in it, got addicted? How did that happen for you?
Yeah, great question. So I probably did venture into a few multi-levels at one time.
Really?
Listened to a couple of good tapes. And it was cassette tapes back then, and read a few good books. And my early beginnings was door-to-door sales, selling fax machines in the 80s.
Wow.
And I was, I was learning everything. I'm a phys ed major by education and a sociology major. But when I got into sales, I was like a fish out of water. And 3M told us at that time to do 20 cold calls and 2 demos. And I learned pretty quickly by doing like 40 and 4.
So that was like for a week, a month?
That was a day.
A day. Okay.
That was a day walking the streets, calling on commercial accounts. And I had at that time Jane Finch, Vaughan, and North York Maple.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good company to learn under.
It was, and there's a lot of camaraderie among the other sales associates that were similar age. Even our management was young, and they were really a helping hand and encouraged us to keep going.
How long did you do that for?
3 years.
3 years. And when did you eventually move into your own business?
Oh, Jamie, sometime after that. I had a lot more practice in the field and working for a variety of other companies, from selling health club memberships to selling bicycles and all the different accessories that go with bicycles.
Right.
And selling alarm systems, selling nutritional products. There was quite a myriad of things that I've entertained myself and kind of cut my teeth on it in my sales career.
So, you know myself as well. I moved from the corporate world. I've done it twice now, and the last time will be the last. I don't think I'm employable anymore. So, walk us through the first time that you decided to take that leap out of selling for somebody else and decided to move into your own business. Who were you with? And what was going on in your life? Why did you make that decision?
Yeah, so that first leap of faith was I was in the medical industry.
Yep.
And I was selling rehab products, and I wanted to begin doing some coaching and training actually, that's not correct. I was in the sporting goods industry, my very first period, and bike shops and small sporting goods stores wanted me to give their sales staff, retail sales staff in their bike shops and small sporting goods stores, some skills to approach customers, to follow up with customers, to meet and greet, talk about product, ask for the business. You've maybe heard of feature advantage benefit selling, fab selling.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then I took some, 7 steps, 10 steps, 4 steps to sales, and incorporated a blend of that with a board and easel, 7 to 8 o'clock at night, with pizza and pop, 6 staff, 2 staff, 10 staff. That's where I started. And my my bike shops started to see results.
So what's happening is you're seen as a bit of a leader, and people came to you to see if you could actually train in the job that you were in, because you obviously demonstrated skill sets.
Correct.
Right?
And
yeah.
Yes, correct. And there was a lot of alignment, because I was selling those bicycle products. So bells, lights, locks, pumps, helmets, and so there was alignment. So they trusted me, and I helped them sell those products, because those are the products we worked with in the workshop.
So help us understand with the transition. I'm always really curious with when people are working in a full-time job, because we grew up in a time where you work for 3 or 4 companies, and you get your retirement, you get your paycheck or your pension fund at the end of it. But a lot of that changed, and I know both you and I have sort of followed similar paths, working with large corporations and sales, but eventually the entrepreneurial bug got us. So how did you transition into being an entrepreneur and setting up your business?
Excellent question. So here is the turning point.
Okay.
It was writing in those days, I'm taking you back over 20 years ago. It was writing a paycheck to Ron Downey. Me coming out of a workshop for an hour or two and getting $350 or $400 or $500, and then doing that once a month, twice a month, 4 times a month. And then I went, it just was mind-boggling that somebody would pay for that little bit of expertise. And those checks were pretty large sums of money for a couple hours work back 20 years ago.
So you were actually doing this part-time on the side?
Yes, only at nights. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And my bike shops were willing to pay me separately or privately for that. And then I must admit, I started with 1 home hardware store after that, then 9, and then being in St. Jacobs with Home Hardware Corporate. And then those checks grew to $1,000 or $2,000.
And then when did you say, yeah, this is the time? And I'm curious, because was it, you had the money in the bank, or was it just a leap of faith and you said, yeah, I'm done with this?
Well, to be honest with you, I have butt heads with a few managers in my time. So if you must know the story, I was fired and quit on the same day.
All right.
So
I've been fired too. So it happened to me a couple of times in my career.
If my wife was in the room, she'll tell you it was never a bad thing for me having been fired. You started off today's Zoom meeting with, that you probably are not, able to work for somebody else and they're unemployable. I probably likewise am, but I do, work for several companies and managers that do manage and look at what I'm doing in a day or in a month. But that was the tipping point. It was sink or swim. So I lost that other paycheck. So then I, without looking back, I was, I just looked forward and grit my teeth, and I had a lot more days to call on independent accounts to hire Ron Downey for training. And then I advanced my product mix. It started out as sales training.
Right.
10 steps to selling. And then it grew to keynote speaking, doing some motivational keynotes. One was called Get Your Team on the Ball. And then I grew into building a management workshop too.
And how did you find that transition? Was there a little bit of pain where income was, you were thinking, is this going to work? Or was it kind of smooth sailing for you?
No, it was not smooth sailing at all.
Okay.
Several years down the road, I had to get a hip replacement.
That's right. You had an accident, didn't you?
No. Well, the bicycle accident probably led to it.
Okay.
I was jumping in High Park and I went sideways, broke my collarbone on the day, but I do believe that caused trauma to my right hip.
Okay.
And then I was in a pain for about a year before I could get surgery. And when I had the surgery, the rehab was pretty extensive. So I folded up my business, brought it back home, and then I went and got a job after that.
Right. So you had to, you were out of commission for a year and a half?
No, I'd say I was out of commission for 6 months with, rehab at home and physiotherapy, and then going and applying for a job. I remember my next job I applied on with crutches, and it happened to be in the rehab industry with a company called Medigas.
So I've done much the same. I left Bell in 2004, went out on my own. I actually had, long story short, I had a life-threatening illness right at the beginning of all that. I still worked on my own for about 3 years, but it was hard. I know for me, having to find a job with the kids and everything, it was a necessary thing to do, but it broke my heart. What did it do to you? What did it do to your spirit?
It certainly did. It made me very humble.
Yeah.
My wife was very happy at the time because, to be honest with you, that emotional highway and the way your emotional highway kind of goes the way your checks go.
Yep.
So there was. Well, I will tell you, there was. It's not where I am today, that's for sure. But there was. It was a roller coaster ride, and so there was highs and lows, and I was willing to give it up at that time.
Yeah.
But the training ground and the knowledge and the experience is what has garnered me the ability to get to where I am today.
Right. So how long did you last before you sat down with your wife and said, had the come to Jesus? Did you have a come to Jesus conversation with her?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't have one of those, but not to say that the power of prayer and yoga and exercise and having my green tea in the morning, I do have a really good solid routine.
Yep.
But 6 or 7 years with Medigas, I did survive. I really enjoyed the business, and I had a chance to exercise a lot of my interest and ability around working with people with mobility needs and issues, and that was cornerstone to my phys ed degree. Right. So, and the sociology side was the ability that I love people and understanding why people do what they do.
And now today you are contracted, or you're self-employed, working in the casket industry?
I'm completely self-employed, working in the funeral industry, yes.
Funeral industry. So
yes.
Your clients are funeral homes that are looking for products and services and...
Yes. Yes, 95% of my business is funeral homes and cemeteries.
So you talked about the Metagas business and your experience with the roller coasters humbling you. And one of the things that I've seen on your bio and I know about you is that you have a very strong empathy for people. Is that something that you've always had and is just developed, or something that somebody gave you?
Yeah, so great questions. Probably some of that's probably due to a loss of my dad when I was 22.
Right.
Very solid relationship with my mother moving back home after second year university.
Yeah.
I came out of school for a year and I worked for a year to get my feet back on the ground and get my head straight. And then I'm an emotional guy. I'm a sensitive guy, so working with people that are of that same psyche or of that same, what I would say it's really good nature to be sensitive to people that you're working with and understanding of where they are. It's never hurt me to show my emotional side to my clients or to my family, including my children.
That's fantastic. How big an influence has your father been in what you do?
A very big influence, seeing that he's been gone for such a long time. Every day I think about him, and I'm always trying to be better each and every day.
Good for you. Good for you. Let's talk about habits. One of the things that I believe in, and in starting up the spirit of business, one of the key things I find with successful salespeople or successful people in general is two things. One, they have a strong sense of purpose or drive, and that can either come from a higher power if those individuals are so inclined, or it can come from other things like life events, not unlike yourself, that motivate you, and in your case, that really helped you push you along. What key habits do you have or that you've developed? I'm particularly interested in morning routine. What time do you get up?
So morning routine, and it has some flexibility seasonally. So I'm up early. I'm always at my desk 7 days, 7 to 9.
Okay.
But that might mean that midweek I could be at my desk at 5:30 or 6, and then I get emails out, and like typically in the summer I might water my lawn for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I have green tea, and I have a couple glasses of water. And
so 7 to 9 is that work time? What are you doing?
Yeah, 7 to 9 is so Saturday and Sundays at the lake when I'm there at the cottage.
Yeah,
I'm up before everybody, checking my computer, maybe doing some reading, and I tried to read some on some broad topics.
Right.
So that you're not always just talking about funeral and cemeterian type. You're not really linear or one-legged.
Right.
But it could be planning. It could be reviewing sales reports. It's that private time that you're taking to give yourself some focus to where you're going to be Monday morning. So you've looked at your accounts that maybe are at risk. You've looked at some accounts that you're getting lots of growth, but you want more.
Right.
I'm reviewing products that I have shown in certain accounts and maybe need to revisit those same products or show them some other products that might work in their favor with their families. Okay.
So do you do any exercise? Do you do any things to prepare? Like some people that I've talked to, they have a quick shower and then they get up, they exercise, they may review some of their plans, their goals, both short-term and long-term. Do you do any of that?
Yeah, sure. I'm always looking at that. I have the my targets for different companies I work for in my a manual planner.
Right.
A day planner.
So you use a manual planner?
I use a manual planner.
Okay.
I record every hour of work in a register book.
Yep. Wow.
And I might do a yay. If I get a sale, I'll put a sticker. Sometimes even be beside it like I'm marking my own paper or marking my own efforts.
Ring a bell or anything?
We used to ring a bell on Wednesday nights at 3 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Right? If you sold a fax machine that night, you'd ring a bell.
Right.
I probably ring that bell unconsciously in my mind.
Yeah. But
You know?
you do something physically to motivate yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I get my own attaboy.
Yep.
And then on exercise, note that this time last week when we were chatting, my wife and I, when I'm home and not traveling, we ride our bikes 20K a night.
Yep.
I play squash. I play tennis. I water ski. I'm very active. I snow ski.
Yep.
I do stretches every morning. If you're asking about my routine.
Yep. Yep.
So with my green tea, I'll do 20 minutes of stretches. So as I've gotten older, I'm finding I do need to do that.
Yeah.
And because I get lots of windshield time, and I get lots of meeting times like this, especially under the current situations with COVID.
Right. And so I'm curious as far as one of the things that you had said earlier is that you wouldn't admit to a bad day. Do you have a bad day?
Oh, certainly.
Okay. So
Yes,
how do you deal with that? Like and the reason I ask that is a lot of business owners that are going to be listening to this are looking for ideas, and I don't like to paint a picture. You know, I try to be positive, but I'm not always. There are days where I wake up and I'm just not feeling the love. And there are some things and habits that I do that I push through. So how do you deal with those days?
Yeah, so it's I would say through repetition. You know, bad days. So for a year, every day was a bad day with my dad's loss.
Right. So
I have, through good books and tapes and experience and success and lots of wins, and you think of all those, you know, those days I was cold calling, getting no's, all those no's you'd hear, and then to get one yes. And if you're paid well enough with your commission structure, it's certainly well worth it. So I would say it's time that's allowed me to close out negative activity, an activity that doesn't reward me well.
Right.
And I do that by, I would say the best answer would be, Jamie, just do one more call.
Yeah.
And if you're not there yet, just do one more call.
I remember a few years ago, this was a long time, actually a while ago, I was in a BNI group, and this fellow was going through a tough time, had, like yourself, lost his father, and he was having a hard time through his career, and he talked to me about it. And the one thing that he said that really impressed me is his father had always said to him, if you don't feel like doing something, do something.
Right.
Push through and do what you can at that particular time. And that's great.
Yeah. So I'm in sales, and we're talking to, entrepreneurs that are in sales, right? And I think you told me their window in sales is anywhere from 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Of some of the clients you're working with.
Yeah.
So the one thing that can give me the greatest result is one more call. Now, it can be to a client if you need a warm call and a softening call, right?
Right.
And if you want a soft opening.
Yeah.
But, years ago, I'd be going to the phone book, or I'd be going to, depending on what I was selling, we're talking real cold call and book an appointment. Yeah. And then I was back on track. Like, no more thumb sucking, no more woe is me.
Right.
So that is the one nugget that I found saved me time and time again.
So you don't dwell on the negative. You just look for that one thing. If it's 4:45 and you just need that one little thing, you knock on that last door or make that last call, and sometimes that's it. Hey, I'm glad you called. It's a great thing because we need some of your service.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah,
that's how I have learned to shorten the window of I can call it, it's termed stinking thinking, or unproductive time, or wanting to quit. When you're facing adversity, the biggest thing you have to do is keep taking one step forward.
Right.
And you might even have more and more challenges or conditions against you. And those conditions can be a myriad of things, with family or accounts you're working with, or internal staff, or maybe it's your one hire.
Right.
Or maybe you've lost your Wi-Fi and your line's not working.
Right.
Whatever it is for the day. And I've had those, whether I'm working from the cottage or on the road in hotel rooms or in a different province.
Yeah.
Never confess to a bad day, but only ever a character building day. I remember being in PEI and a big storm hit, and I was going to an account asking, was my truck going to blow over? I could hardly hold on to the steering, and and I got to the account, but what was interesting, when I got to my hotel, there was no power, and they wouldn't let me off the island. They had closed the Confederation Bridge. So I was hunkering down for the night in the winter with no heat in my hotel room and not a thing to eat except M&Ms and, which I thought was going to be my dinner.
Well, that's character building.
It is. Everything in Summerside, PEI was closed. Tim Hortons didn't have a donut in the place.
Oh my gosh!
There was no gas. Everything had been closed and shut down to hunker down for this storm. And you know something? Next morning was a new day.
Yeah. Fantastic. A lot of business owners over the last couple of months are stressed. Some have had to shut down. Others have repivoted. There's a couple of restaurants that I frequent here locally. What advice do you have for a business owner that's, this is a big external thing that nobody has any control over. And for people like you and me, we're both self-employed, and fortunately in our business, there is still customers that need mortgages. There are going to be funeral homes that need caskets. What advice do you give to people that are not feeling that same hope?
Well, so I had that hope, that lack of, I was lost for, I must admit, for a day or two, a week. There was a period of time where I, sat with my wife, and we were all getting inundated with family members and friends that were not working, or times were cut, going to collect EI. We were waiting for the government on CERB and what was happening there. And so for me, I must admit, a gentleman by the name of Dan Sullivan, who's a coach in the Toronto region, he had sent me a file called Scary Times. And so one of his salesmen had called me and leveraged this file to me, of which I read it. And there were 10 great points about really getting in touch with your clients and listening to their needs. And I was sending this file out because there were some real good points about, Ron, take your sales hat off and be human, and ask them how they're doing with the funeral home, their family, what their family's needs are. And there were some good cartoons going around. I remember Charlie Brown and Snoopy being on a dock, and Snoopy puts his arm around Brown, says everyone needs a friend. So that's really what I did. And then I started, I couldn't be, I was not on the road for 7 weeks. The last 2 weeks now, which makes 9, I've been on the road. Yeah. And I was sending pizzas to some of my good accounts and saying, hey, I'm not going to be there, but just let me know who your vendor is, how many staff, and what toppings you'd like. And I'll send you a pizza, and just, thanks for your business and hope you're well. So little things like that. Yeah. That I think are cornerstone. And then I got a chance to do some good reading and just leveraging files and looking for new products and existing products to work more closely with my current accounts. As their funeral homes needs changed, so did my supply needs change.
Okay. Any other final words or thoughts that you'd like to share?
Sure. I always describe entrepreneurs as it's like when you're either using a gun, like a pellet gun, we'll say, or a bow or an arrow. I always say there's three kinds of people. And when you're going to shoot at a target, you're going to be ready, you're going to aim, and you're going to fire. Well, in my business, and I've fine-tuned it over the years, Jamie, I don't get ready and I don't aim, I just fire. And that's been pretty successful for me. I just throw the spaghetti on the wall as much as I can out of the pot and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And what sticks is my sales.
Well, and yep, I get that.
I just want to add that for those that are a little slower to transition from each of those three stages, but at least take aim. Take aim, be ready, take aim, and if just give yourself a chance to fire one or two times before you quit.
Yeah.
Because it's the firing that's going to give you the results.
Right.
Don't be ready and take aim. You gotta take some shots. And in taking some shots, you're going to also have some fall down too with that.
Good. Well, thanks a lot, and thank you for listening. This has been the Spirit of Business, where businesses learn to thrive. Success with 6 inches is 6 inches, with my guest, Ron Downey. Thanks again, Ron.
Good. Thank you, Jamie. Have a good night.
Okay.